I never imagined I'd experience something no seasoned detective should endure. Being restrained on my own doorstep by individuals in fraudulent uniforms while the neighborhood association leader watched with smug satisfaction. Their justification was a supposed violation of community regulations. The irony wasn't lost on me. The only thing truly tested that morning was my restraint, not their legitimacy. Standing in my new living space, surrounded by the scent of fresh paint that promised new beginnings, I surveyed the cardboard towers that represented my fresh start. Each container told a story: kitchen essentials, archive materials, dispose, which made me chuckle. My late spouse had always found humor in my professional collection. Those files contained 2 decades of service records, citations, and case documentation from my years in law enforcement, 12 years with the tactical unit, followed by 7 as department commander. This residence represented my reward for years of service, a sanctuary where I could hear morning birds instead of emergency sirens. The tree-lined avenue with its well-maintained properties spoke of the tranquility I sought. My grandfather's wisdom echoed in my memory. A person's dwelling is their fortress, but the finest fortresses have peaceful neighbors. Opening a container marked personal library, I discovered a framed photograph of my grandfather in his military dress uniform, stern-faced yet with kind eyes. He had taught me marksmanship, fishing, and most importantly, how to identify deception. His philosophy centered on genuine order, the kind that allows honest citizens to live unmolested, not petty bureaucracy, but practical common sense. For 3 peaceful weeks, everything proceeded perfectly. I organized my belongings, established a workshop in the garage, and met several neighbors. Tom from across the street offered daily greetings, a jovial man permanently attached to his leaf blower. A young couple brought homemade pastries, creating a genuine sense of community. My career felt distant, allowing me to breathe freely and sleep soundly. Then the first document materialized under my vehicle's windshield wiper. Not my department vehicle, but my personal truck. The bright crimson paper bore bold, aggressive typography. Violation notice. My lawn supposedly exceeded acceptable height by a fraction of an inch, violating Article 4, Section B of the Elm Grove Community Regulations. A $50 penalty was assessed, signed by Linda Ashworth, President, Elm Grove Property Owners Council. Examining my lawn, it appeared identical to my neighbor's. A familiar tension settled in my stomach, the sensation I experienced when witnessing larger individuals intimidating smaller ones. Not anger, but a cold recognition of duty. I'd witnessed this pattern countless times. Someone gains imaginary authority and becomes intoxicated with power, creating arbitrary rules to feed their ego rather than serve any legitimate purpose. I pocketed the notice, deciding initially to ignore it, a mistake as I knew from experience. But it was my day off and I wanted to pretend I was simply a new homeowner, not a law enforcement officer detecting criminal behavior. The following day brought 2 crimson notices, another lawn violation, plus a new infraction regarding my waste container being visible for 3 hours beyond the designated collection time. This penalty was $75, bringing my total to $125. This Linda Ashworth demonstrated efficiency. I'd acknowledge that. The notices felt less like mere annoyance and more like reconnaissance, testing boundaries to determine if there was resistance and how fierce it might be. The language escalated with phrases like immediate compliance and further action, standard intimidation, tactics designed to frighten those unfamiliar with actual legal procedures. My grandfather's image came to mind. He would have called this a petty dictator, a small individual making excessive noise to appear significant. He also would have advised against allowing weeds to overtake your garden, suggesting swift and thorough removal. Through my window, I observed a woman walking a small, yapping dog. She paused before my house, studied it momentarily, and made notations on a clipboard. She had sharp features and a severely geometric haircut. Instinctively, I knew this was Linda Ashworth. When our eyes met, she didn't smile, but gave me a look of pure, concentrated arrogance, a self-appointed monarch surveying her domain. My peaceful street no longer felt tranquil. It felt like occupied territory. The testing phase had concluded. Now I needed to determine my response. For someone like me, there was only one way to handle a bully disguising herself as legitimate authority. You don't merely prove her wrong. You dismantle her entire fabricated world using real authority. She was about to discover what happens when she encounters an actual police commander. Her amateur game was ending. Mine was just beginning. The next morning I drove downtown, not to my police department office but to the county registrar's building. The old marble structure, heavy with the scent of aged documents and bureaucracy, appealed to me. It was a repository of facts, and facts are immutable. They resist opinion and bluster, forming the foundation of legitimate law. At the public records counter, a woman with reading glasses on a chain looked up from her mountain of files with tired eyes, clearly accustomed to numerous daily dramas. "How may I assist you?" she asked in a flat tone. "I'd like to examine incorporation documents and filed covenants for a property owners association," I replied, providing the name, Elm Grove Property Owners Council. She typed the name into her computer, fingers moving deliberately. After squinting at the screen and typing multiple variations, she sighed, a sound conveying, "Here we go again." "No record exists for an association by that name," she stated. "Not in this county." I nodded, having expected this, though anticipation and proof are different matters. "Could you check variations? Elm Grove Community, Elm Grove Neighbors, anything similar?" More typing, more sighs. Nothing. No registered association for the entire subdivision had ever existed. It was zoned single-family residential in the 1970s with no covenants filed with the original plat. "Are you certain of the name?" she asked. I showed her one of the crimson notices. She held it to the light, examined it, and a small, humorless smile appeared. One of these. It happens more frequently than you'd expect. Someone declares themselves neighborhood royalty. Prints official-looking letterhead. Most people simply pay. They fear trouble and prefer avoiding conflict. That was the fuel bullies required. Fear of making waves. They depended on good people remaining silent. Requested a certified document stating that an official search had been conducted with no property owners, association under that name or related covenants, existing in county records. Her smile widened. "Official letterhead, notarized seal, $25. I'll take 2 copies." While she prepared the documents, I contemplated Linda Ashworth's audacity, inventing an organization to extort money from neighbors. This constituted fraud, conspiracy, and a direct assault on legal order, creating shadow governance on a single street according to one person's whims. My grandfather had served in a war against those who decided they could impose their own rules on others. He witnessed what occurred when lies grew into something resembling power. He'd say this fake association was symptomatic of a larger problem: disrespect for boundaries. The clerk returned with 2 crisp, official documents, having also checked the state business registry with no association or corporation under any name variation. The raised seal felt substantial, a weapon crafted from paper and truth. I could have ended it immediately by confronting Linda with this document and informing neighbors. But that wouldn't be sufficient. She wouldn't stop. She'd simply relocate, change names, or find new victims. You don't scare away a predator. You contain it. The clerk's letter proved she lacked authority but didn't prove her crimes. For that I needed more evidence. I needed to let her continue playing her game, providing her more rope to hang herself. I needed her to escalate, to catch her and any accomplices in acts so brazen that a judge would have no choice but to make an example. This was no longer about a $50 fine or even my street. It concerned all the people bullied into paying, those who relocated due to harassment. Though I hadn't found their files yet, I knew they existed. Bullies always leave trails of damaged lives. During the drive home, I called my most trusted lieutenant, Sarah Martinez, my anchor at the department, intelligent, composed, and more legally knowledgeable than most attorneys. "Sarah, it's Michael. Everything all right, Chief? You're supposed to be on vacation. Mostly. Listen, I need a discreet background check. Off the books for now. A woman named Linda Ashworth lives on my street. What did she do? Criticize your landscaping?" Sarah's humor matched my own dry wit, something like that. "Just give me the basics: priors, finances, known associates. Keep it on your desktop only. No official files yet. You got it. Is this going to be one of your projects?" I could hear her smile. My projects were legendary at the precinct. Cases that began small, overlooked by others, then unraveled into something significant and ugly. Let's just say I discovered a weed in my new garden, and I'll need a bigger shovel. The certified letter sat beside me, representing truth, But truth isn't always enough. Sometimes you must allow the lie to grow so large that when it collapses, it takes everyone involved down with it. Linda Ashworth wanted to play a game of rules and consequences. She had no idea I'd been playing it my entire career, and I never lose. That evening, my house transformed from a home into a tactical observation post. I opened a container from the garage, not tools or memories, but specialized equipment I'd collected over years of service. Miniaturized, high definition, and completely legal to own. I installed discrete exterior surveillance connected to my private server, motion detection, facial recognition, license plate capture. Next came personal equipment. I retrieved a device resembling a shirt button, actually a high-fidelity microphone. I replaced a button on one of my casual shirts with it. The 50-foot range would capture every word, threat, and whisper. Testing the device by walking around the house and speaking quietly, the playback revealed crystal-clear audio, picking up refrigerator hums and wall clock ticking. The final component was a ring, a simple black band worn on my right hand, resembling a fitness tracker or modern jewelry. It wasn't. It had one function. If I pressed the side with my thumb in a specific two-tap sequence, it sent an encrypted high-priority alert to Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, pinging both her service and personal phones while activating live audio from the button microphone and video from all 4 exterior cameras. She would see and hear everything in real time. This panic button represented something I'd never needed before but suspected I was about to. I arranged everything on my kitchen table, cameras, microphone, alert ring. It seemed strange in a house meant for peace, but this was the job aspect I was trying to leave behind. The planning, anticipation, and methodical preparation for inevitable conflict. I would not become a victim in my own home. I would not allow this woman to terrorize this street. I was turning her weapon, intimidation, back on her. She used fear of the unknown. I would use certainty of recorded facts. I called my most reliable patrol officer, a large, quiet man named Rodriguez, ex-military, solid as granite, and an excellent driver under pressure. Rodriguez, it's Commander Thompson. Chief, everything all right? I need you on standby. Unofficial. You might receive a call from Lieutenant Martinez. If so, I need you to take an unmarked unit and move quickly. Can you do that? Yes, sir, he said without questions. That was Rodriguez. I also made 2 calls to neighbors, the young family who'd brought pastries and Tom across the street. I kept it simple. This is Michael Thompson from down the street. I'm having a disagreement with our neighborhood association president. If you notice any commotion at my place in the next few days, would you mind recording it with your phone? From your window is fine, just for my records. Tom laughed. That woman's trouble. She tried to find me because my garden gnome violated community aesthetic standards. You got it, Chief. I'll keep watch. The other family was more hesitant but agreed. They were frightened. Exactly the type Linda Ashworth preyed upon. Now I had a network. Interior and exterior surveillance, high-tech and low-tech coverage. All pieces were positioned. I felt the familiar calm settle over me. The calm before the storm, identical to what I experienced in the back of a tactical van approaching a barricaded door. You've completed preparations, checked equipment, briefed your team. Nothing remains but waiting for the opposition to make their move. And they always do. Sitting in my living room watching sunset, I found another crimson notice on my door for failure to comply. The fine had reached $500. The notice mentioned a lien being placed on my property and pending legal action. All nonsense. Fraudulent documents have no legal power, but they possess the power of fear. I crumpled it up and discarded it. I was no longer playing defense. I had set a trap. Now I needed the quarry to step into it. Tomorrow I expected them to come for me with threats and fabricated authority. They would try making an example of me, and I would let them. I would smile, comply, and record every second. She thought this was about a lawn. She had no idea this was about to become a felony investigation, with her as the star witness against herself. The morning arrived overcast and humid, feeling like the calm had broken. I put on the shirt with the microphone button, slipped the alert ring onto my finger, made coffee and waited. Around 10 o'clock, a dark SUV with tinted windows pulled to my curb, one of those oversized, aggressive vehicles people purchase to feel powerful. It bore no official markings. 2 men emerged, dressed in what they believed were police uniforms. From across the sidewalk, the uniforms appeared legitimate. Navy shirts, silver badges, shoulder patches. But the insignia was incorrect. The numbers didn't match proper specifications. Clean Navy fabric, shiny badges, rental equipment. Having worked with officers for 2 decades, I knew genuine cops moved with practiced economy of motion. These were actors, poor ones. A third person exited the passenger side. Linda Ashworth, wearing a blazer and holding her clipboard like a royal scepter. She pointed at my front door, giving the 2 hired men their instructions, her face a mask of grim satisfaction. I allowed them center stage. They approached my driveway while Tom's curtains twitched across the street, and the young mother next door peeked through blinds, her phone visible. My network was active. The 2 men flanked my front door while Linda positioned herself behind them, ready to savor victory. One pounded on the door, not a knock but a pound, an assertion of power. I took a deep breath, smoothed my shirt and opened the door, looking at them with neutral, slightly confused expression, the concerned citizen look. "Can I help you?" The larger man puffed out his chest. "Michael Thompson?" "That's me." "We have a warrant for your arrest," he said, holding up a document. I took it. Another masterpiece of forgery with a fake court seal and a judge's name I knew had been retired for 5 years. The charges were comical. Criminal defiance of community bylaws. Not a real offense. Just legal gibberish meant to sound terrifying. "This seems extreme for a lawn fine," I said, keeping my voice steady and calm. Linda stepped forward with a cruel smile. "You were warned, Mr. Thompson. We don't tolerate lawbreakers on Elm Grove. You brought this on yourself. Now will you comply, or must we do this the hard way?" I looked at the 2 men, then at Linda. They were so confident, standing on my property, threatening me with fraudulent documents and fabricated authority, believing I was just another scared homeowner. This was the moment, the core of their criminal enterprise, impersonating peace officers, extortion while impersonating authority. These were serious felonies carrying substantial prison time. I raised my hands slowly in surrender. "No trouble. I'll comply." The relief on their faces was palpable. They'd expected resistance, a shouting match. They didn't know how to handle quiet compliance. The larger one produced cheap, shiny handcuffs, fumbling with them. He didn't know proper procedure, yanking my arms behind my back with unnecessary force. The metal bit into my wrists. I didn't flinch. I looked directly at Linda Ashworth and smiled. Not a large smile, just a small, knowing curve of my lips saying, "You have no idea what you've just done." The smile infuriated her. Her face tightened. "Wipe that stupid grin off your face. You're in serious trouble." The 2 hired men led me off my porch and down the sidewalk. The perp walk, a classic intimidation tactic. They wanted all neighbors to witness my arrest, to make an example cementing their power over this street. What they didn't realize was that I wanted the same thing. I wanted everyone to see this. Neighbors were filming. My button microphone was live. Tom stood on his porch, phone held high, recording everything. The family next door filmed from their window. It was beautiful, clear, multi-angle documentation of a felony in progress. Tom's leaf blower coughed to life. He stepped onto his porch, coffee mug in one hand, blower in the other, humming. Linda snapped, "Noise violation." Tom cupped his ear. "What?" "Sorry, I only enforce compliant gnomes." The smaller hired man flinched, half turning. I tilted my head. "Careful with that prop, hero," Linda hissed. "Eyes forward." The neighborhood was awake and watching, and the hired men could feel it. The larger one tightened the cuffs to reassert control. I winced just enough for the cameras and smiled at Linda again, wider this time. She finally looked rattled. My right hand was cuffed behind my back, but my thumb was free. I pressed it gently against the ring. 1 tap, 2 taps. The signal was sent. Miles away in her office, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez's phone screamed. Live feeds opened. She could see and hear everything. She knew the trap had sprung. "You're making a big mistake," I said loudly enough for the microphone to capture clearly. "Impersonating a police officer is a felony in this state." The smaller one laughed. "Just shut up and get in the car, old man. The only mistake here is yours." They opened the SUV's back door. Linda stood watching, arms crossed, the picture of triumph. She thought she had won, had crushed the one person who dared defy her. She had just handed me her entire operation on a silver platter. They pushed me into the back seat. The door slammed shut. As they got in front, I knew the first part of the plan was complete. They had taken the bait. Now they were in my world, a world of real officers, real laws, and very real consequences. The SUV started moving. They thought they were taking me away. They had no idea I was taking them down. The SUV's interior smelled of cheap air freshener and stale coffee. The two fake officers in front seats were chuckling, high on their power trip. Linda wasn't with them. Her role was public humiliation. Their role was follow-through. Probably drive me around for an hour, threaten me more, then abandon me in a park somewhere, hoping I'd be too scared and embarrassed to act. Classic bully tactics: isolate, intimidate, abandon. It works on most people. I am not most people. The passenger, smaller man with a weaselly face, turned around with a smug grin. Not so tough now, are you, Mr. Thompson? Should have just paid the fine. Would have been easier. I remained silent. Silence is its own weapon. Unnerving people like him who need reactions, who feed on fear and anger. I gave them nothing. I was stone. He scoffed and turned back. The driver was talking on his phone in low tones. Yeah, we got him. No problem. He folded like a cheap suit. We're heading to the spot now. He was reporting in. Probably to Linda. This confirmed organized effort. Conspiracy. Another charge for the list. During the perp walk, when they pushed me toward the SUV, I stumbled purposely, my body leaning against the rear bumper. My cuffed hands were behind me, right against the dark plastic. It appeared like a clumsy man losing balance, but my hand wasn't clumsy. As my body made contact, my fingers found the small magnetic disc I'd palmed from my pocket. A GPS tracker, small, powerful, with weeks of battery life. I'd held it between my fingers, secured by handcuff pressure. In that 1 second of being off balance, I pressed it firmly onto the underside of the bumper, feeling the strong magnet catch the metal frame. The tracker was live. My team didn't just have audio and video of the abduction. They had a moving dot on a map, knowing exactly where I was going, and how fast. The SUV turned onto a main road, picking up speed. The driver was getting overconfident, weaving through traffic. I looked out the window at familiar city landmarks. I wasn't worried. I had absolute faith in my people, in Sarah and Rodriguez. I knew they were already moving. In my mind, I could hear the radio chatter, Sarah, calm and professional, coordinating units. Rodriguez and his unmarked interceptor closing distance. Other unmarked cars operated by the force's best officers taking positions. They wouldn't use lights or sirens yet. They would shadow us, wait for the perfect moment. The perfect location with minimal traffic and clear sight lines where they could control the environment completely. This was the job's chess game aspect, anticipating opponent moves and positioning pieces to counter them 3 steps ahead. Linda and her crew thought they were playing checkers. They'd just moved their king into the open with no defense. Checkmate was coming. The men in front were discussing what to do with the $500 Linda had paid them for this job, arguing about spending it on beer or video games. They were small men with small ambitions. Their crime, however, was not small. They were blissfully unaware of the net closing around them. I leaned back against the seat, closed my eyes, and focused on breathing, the same calming exercise I'd done 1,000 times before high-risk operations. Stay calm, stay ready, let the plan work. The SUV took a sharp right turn toward an industrial park on the city's outskirts, a perfect containment zone with low traffic, clear sight lines and multiple entry and exit points for my team to control. The passenger turned to me again. Hey, when we let you go, you're going to forget this ever happened. You're going to go home, pay your fines, and not call the cops. Understand? Because we know where you live. It was a direct threat, the last piece of evidence I needed. All recorded, the impersonation, abduction, extortion, threat. A complete package tied with a neat bow. I understand, I said flatly. What I understood was that they had just sealed their fate. The SUV slowed as we entered the industrial park. The trap was set. Time to spring it. The world outside the SUV was a blur of gray warehouses and empty parking lots. The driver sought a specific spot, a deserted side road where they planned to deliver their final speech and abandon me. He was so focused on his task, he didn't see the first vehicle. A beat-up construction van that pulled out from a side street ahead, moving slowly, forcing him to slow down. He muttered a curse, annoyed. He had no idea the van was part of the plan. He didn't see the black sedan pulling up behind us, boxing us in from the rear. He didn't notice the dark pickup truck appearing in the lane to our left, a truck I recognized. Rodriguez was driving, looking calm and ready. I felt a subtle vibration through the SUV floor. I had a small receiver in my shoe, another piece of tactical equipment, a simple device providing haptic feedback. A single short buzz, the signal from Sarah. Takedown initiated. I braced myself. The construction van in front suddenly slammed on its brakes. Our driver, caught by surprise, stomped his own brake pedal. Tires shrieked on pavement. We lurched forward, the seatbelt digging into my chest. Behind us, the black sedan closed the gap, its bumper kissing the SUV's rear. To our left, Rodriguez's truck swerved, blocking any chance of a lane change. In 2 seconds, we were stationary, trapped, a perfect rolling containment. The driver's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "What the hell is this?" The passenger looked around, his weaselly face pale with confusion and dawning fear. "I don't know, man. I don't know." They still hadn't realized what was happening. They thought it was a traffic accident or road rage incident. Their minds couldn't comprehend that the tables had been turned so completely, so irrevocably. The doors of surrounding vehicles flew open. Men and women in full tactical gear emerged, not wearing cheap surplus store costumes, but my people, the city's finest. They carried real weapons and moved with the fluid, deadly grace of trained professionals. The scene erupted in cacophony, not sirens, but shouted commands. "Police! Show me your hands. Do it now." The voices overlapped from all directions, overwhelming and designed to shock the system, shutting down the brain's ability to think or resist. The 2 hired men in the front seat froze like deer caught in freight train headlights. Their tough guy act evaporated, leaving pure, undiluted panic. "Hands on the dash. Let me see your hands." Rodriguez's voice cut through the noise. He stood outside the driver's side door, weapon aimed squarely at the driver's head, his expression unreadable, all business. The driver slowly, shakily raised his hands to the dashboard. The passenger did the same, hands trembling. The SUV's back doors were wrenched open. 2 officers were there, weapons ready. One looked at me, a young officer from the academy, but his eyes were steady. "Chief, you okay, sir?" "I'm fine, son. Get me out of these things." He quickly unlocked the cheap handcuffs. The metal fell away from my wrists. I rubbed them momentarily, circulation returning, then stepped out into the controlled chaos of a high-risk felony stop. 2 uniformed officers walked me to a marked cruiser for evaluation and ID checks, standard scene control. That was the photo neighbors would share, me smiling between real officers. The air was electric with tension. I was no longer the victim or passenger. I was the police chief. This was my scene. I walked around to the SUV's front. The 2 suspects were being pulled from the vehicle by my officers, faces pressed against the hood, being searched, cuffed with real handcuffs, and read their rights. The passenger was blubbering. "It was just a joke, man. We were just trying to scare him." The driver was silent, smart enough to know it was too late for excuses. I stood and watched, letting the procedure unfold exactly as it should. There would be no mistakes in this arrest, no procedural errors. Everything would be by the book. My book, Rodriguez approached me. "They have 2 weapons, Chief. One in a shoulder holster on the passenger. It's a convincing airsoft pistol. The other was under the driver's seat, a 9mm with serial numbers filed off." My gut tightened. This had escalated again, from impersonation and kidnapping to serious federal firearms charges. "Good work, Rodriguez. Let's search the vehicle. I want it taken apart piece by piece." Sarah Martinez pulled up in her unmarked car, exiting with her phone pressed to her ear. She looked at me and gave a small, sharp nod, saying, "We got them. What's next?" I looked at the 2 pathetic figures being placed in separate patrol cars. Their little reign of terror was over. They were the muscle, the hired help. Now it was time to go after the head of the snake. Sarah, they threatened me. They admitted they were paid. We've got impersonating a police officer, extortion, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and firearms violations. That's more than enough for a warrant. I want a warrant for Linda Ashworth's house, car, computers, and any storage units in her name. I want all her financial records. I want everything. Sarah was already typing. "Already on it, Chief. The on-call duty judge is ready." The trap for the pawns had been sprung. Now we'd use them as bait to catch the queen. The industrial park was now a full crime scene sealed with yellow tape. My forensic team swarmed the dark SUV in white suits like ghosts in the gray afternoon. Every surface was dusted for prints, every fiber collected. They were methodical and thorough. I stood with Rodriguez watching them work. Want to start interviewing these two? I shook my head. Not yet. Let them sit. Let them think about the rest of their lives. They'll be much more cooperative in a few hours. Right now, this vehicle is our priority. It's going to tell us a story. And it did. The first discovery was in the glove compartment, a stack of red violation notices identical to those I'd received, pre-printed with blank spaces for offense and fine. Underneath was a binder containing crude maps of different neighborhoods with certain houses circled. My street was there, my house circled in red ink, a target list. The second discovery was under the back seat, a lockbox. A few taps with a pry bar opened it, revealing several dozen fake police badges, cheap, tiny things that would look real enough from distance to scare average people. Beside the badges were wads of cash held with rubber bands. Rodriguez counted it. Over $5,000 here, Chief. It was extortion money, cash payments from scared homeowners who just wanted harassment to stop. Each bundle had a sticky note with an address, a receipt book of their crimes. This wasn't just Linda's little power trip anymore. This was a criminal enterprise, racketeering, a charge that gets federal government attention. The feds love racketeering cases with serious time, forfeiture tools, and wide conspiracy reach. The third and most important discovery was a phone, a cheap prepaid burner tucked into the driver's door side pocket. Password protected, but Sarah filed an emergency warrant. The on-call judge signed within minutes, and our lab started lawful extraction. I handed it to one of my tech specialists. I want everything off this, text messages, call logs, location data. I want to know who they called before they picked me up and after. Expedited, he nodded and rushed to his van, a mobile tech. Lab, this phone was the digital thread connecting these two. Hired men directly to Linda Ashworth, turning their testimony from he said, she said into verified, time-stamped fact. While the search continued, I walked to the patrol car holding the driver, opening the back door. He looked up with wide, fearful eyes, his tough guy act completely gone, looking like a scared kid. The gun with filed serial numbers. That's a federal felony, up to 5 years plus state time. That's before we even get to kidnapping and impersonation charges. You're looking at 20, maybe 30 years. You're young. You'll be old and gray when you get out. He started crying, silent tears running down his cheeks. Your friend in the other car is going to talk. He's going to tell us everything. He's going to say it was all your idea. He's going to make a deal to testify against you and be out in 5 years while you rot. The first one to talk gets the best deal. That's how this works. Classic interrogation technique. Divide and conquer. Also the truth. I closed the door and walked to the other car, giving the passenger the exact same speech. I was planting seeds of doubt, creating a race to see who could betray the other first. It usually didn't take long. I'd done my part. Now it was up to them. I turned back to the SUV. Rodriguez was holding up a plastic evidence bag containing a set of keys. Found these clipped to the sun visor. One looks like a house key. One has a brass stamp. Metro Self-Storage 218. Rodriguez cross-checked their ledger. The unit was rented to Linda Ashworth's LLC. The others were padlock keys matching the facility hardware. I took the bag and examined the keys. A storage unit. Perfect place to keep incriminating evidence off-site where you think it's safe. Common mistake for amateur criminals. Sarah walked over holding her phone. Warrants are live. We have warrants for her house, car, and all storage units leased by her or her LLCs per facility records. She was efficient, the best. Rodriguez, take these keys. There's a large self-storage facility a few miles from her neighborhood. Start there. Take a team. If the key fits, go in quietly. I want to see what's in there before she even knows we have her boys. Rodriguez nodded and took the keys, knowing what to do. The tech analyst came running back from his van, holding a laptop. Chief, you need to see this. The burner phone, the last call made before they arrived at your house was to a number labeled L-Boss. We cross-referenced the number. It's registered to Linda Ashworth. There's also a text message from her sent 20 minutes ago. Is it done? Is the trash taken out? My blood ran cold. Is the trash taken out? Wasn't language of simple eviction or scare tactics. It was something darker speaking to intent. painting a picture of someone not just a con artist but truly malicious. The evidence was flooding in now. We had the car, cash, badges, weapons. We had the digital trail. We had the threat on my body microphone. We had multiple witnesses. The case was no longer just solid, it was airtight. Now we just needed to find the rest of her kingdom. Thanks to a cheap padlock key, I thought we were about to find the vault. The storage facility was a sprawling complex of orange and blue metal doors. Anonymous. Impersonal. A place where people kept parts of their lives they didn't want to look at daily. For Linda Ashworth, it was where she kept the parts of her criminal life. Rodriguez and his team were waiting for me. They had isolated the correct unit, 218. The key slid in and turned without problem. They hadn't opened the door yet, waiting for me. "Let's see what she's hiding," I said. Rodriguez cut the cheap facility lock, a formality to maintain chain of custody. He and another officer rolled up the heavy metal door. The air that rushed out was stale and smelled of ink and paper. The unit wasn't full of old furniture or